Obviously mental health is completely unique to every single person, and it is something that is obviously spoken about in terms of kind of news headlines and kind of public arenas much more than it would have perhaps done in previous years and sort of recent decades as well. But obviously mental health is a real thing. It is really important, and equally some might say as important as physical health. Mental health is something that we all kind of have to kind of be mindful of through our entire kind of life. We might have dips in mental health for kind of whatever circumstances, whatever kind of personal reasons throughout a lifetime. We might know friends, family, colleagues who suffer from sort of obviously a whole spectrum of mental health conditions and kind of changes in mood and feelings. But anyway, as I said, I just wanted to go through just a couple of books that I own that are kind of relevant for today, World Mental Health Day, given that the theme this year is kind of mental health in the workplace. First up is a book that I've got here that I got quite recently from a TK Maxx store locally, and it's called From Burnout to Balance. Don't know if you can see that just because of the reflection. It says How to Reclaim Your Life and Improve Your Health. This is by Harriet Griffey. And I just thought it'd be really valuable to kind of pick this up and take it home, because I think that kind of whatever our jobs are, the pace of life, the pace of work is often can be quite intense. And I think ever since the pandemic, there's lots of, I think people are just a bit more in tune of their kind of capabilities, their kind of resilience, if that's the word to use, their limits of being able to cope with things kind of in a sort of a straightforward or expected way. And that many people are now kind of discussing again more openly the issue of burnout, and sort of finding that easier to do in different scenarios. So this book is full of different sections, as you might expect, of perhaps things to kind of point your sort of mind towards, but then to kind of empower you to kind of deal and cope with stressful things a little bit more intentionally. So there are chapters such as signs and symptoms of burnout, workplace stress, social media stress, how you can be stress smart. So kind of what is stress, the importance of breathing and breathing exercises. There's something that did strike me when I looked at this yesterday, and will I be able to find it now? Who knows? It's in the Living Mindfully chapter, and there's something about mindfulness is deliberately focusing our attention on our thoughts, emotions, feelings, sensations, and mental activity without losing awareness of what is happening in the present moment. I think that's very true. And there's something here that really struck me, and it's under a heading called Natural Benefits, and it's called Biophilia, a love of and response to the natural world. Has a very profound positive effect on mood. Nature and spending time in natural surroundings is restorative and something which we should factor into a daily mindfulness practice to help relieve the stress that can contribute to burnout. I know for me, I always feel better when I'm out in fresh air and got beautiful kind of scenery around me, whether it's green or fresh, or perhaps the leaves are changing golden brown as they are now at this time in the northern hemisphere, given it's October. But this book is a really kind of useful resource, I think, to kind of just reframe your mind about, okay, what are the triggers? What could help me not go to the verge of burnout? And if you are recognizing that you are close to burnout, for whatever reason, that there's some tools in here to hopefully help support you. So there you go. That's From Burnout to Balance by Harriet Griffey. But given what I've just said about the power of the natural world in being outdoors and the great outdoors, this takes me neatly on to a book that I think I have showcased on my channels before, perhaps not YouTube, but it is The Wild Remedy, How Nature Mends Us, a diary by Emma Mitchell. And I've chosen this just as this sort of nature segue, because I just think there is something so lovely in immersing yourself in a book. And again, not necessarily reading it from cover to cover, but dipping into it as you can with this book, because it is so sort of monthly and seasonal, that when you open it to pages like this, it is just so calming and peaceful, and really kind of helps me feel quite grounded to the world around me. And that is, I think that does really help with mental health and sense of well-being. Just beautiful, beautiful photos and kind of colour and sort of black and white illustrations. That was for November, I've happened to open it at, but if we go to October, which is my favourite month of the year because it is my birthday month and I've just had my birthday, you see just gorgeous collecting kind of things from the big wide world out there that kind of evoke that feeling of October, that kind of really get you in touch with your different senses. This is just a beautiful, beautiful book, and it, yeah, always finding something gorgeous and something interesting to read. So Emma on social media, she's very open about her own kind of mental health and sort of ups and downs with it. She openly has on the inside sleeve here, she suffered with depression for more than 25 years. And it's just saying about each walk she did when she moved in 2003 to the edge of the Cambridgeshire Fens, lifted her mood, proving to be just as medicinal as any talking therapy or pharmaceutical. So this is a hand-illustrated diary of Emma's. There are versions beyond this book to fill in your own diary, I believe. So yeah, Emma sort of takes you along with her from her perspective, her own viewpoints, with the hope of resonating with you as the reader. But there you go. That is The Wild Remedy, How Nature Mends Us, a diary by Emma Mitchell. Highly recommend that one. If you haven't already kind of got that or are aware of that, grab a copy in your library, local bookshop, charity shop, audio kind of book provider, however you get it. So yeah, it's beautiful, and I don't think you can beat the actual hardback of that one. So there's that one. Staying on the theme of nature, I've just picked out one of my travel books, and this is related to the area that I live in. So this is AA 50 Walks in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. 50 walks of 2 to 10 miles, so nothing too crazy. And look, it's got a perfect autumn picture on the front as well. But I just think there's something about getting out into your local environment and maybe exploring new territory and new neighbourhoods and communities, and books such as this one kind of give you kind of food for thought and inspiration of where you can go. So I've just opened it up at this sort of quite random page, and it's called Jane Austen's Chawton, which is quite fitting for a book vlog. And this details a 5-mile walk around. It should take you 2.5 hours. And Chawton is a beautiful, beautiful kind of picturesque chocolate box village. It has got Jane Austen's house in it, and obviously provides you with a suggested walking route. So yeah, obviously walking by yourself, with friends, with family, is something that can kind of really help support your mental health. So there are plenty of books out there like this. I just happened to pick this one up off my shelf, like I said. But yeah, get out there and explore kind of what's around you, or if you're out on holiday, away on holiday, go out. You always feel better for it, don't you? Even if it's chucking it down, you got your waterproofs and your walking boots on. So there you go, there's that one. So then for me, another kind of part of my reading kind of experience that really I value and really kind of helps support mental health, I think, is diving into non-fiction, kind of exploring new worlds and worlds that you want to learn more about. You're actually boosting your little grey cells, as Poirot would say, and you are gaining something as you're reading, aren't you? It's not just the act of reading, but you're absorbing something that is really beneficial and helps your brain power and your knowledge and your kind of perspective of a point in time, if it is related to non-fiction and a particular period in history, which is the case for this next book that I was going to recommend. It is Traitor King, The Scandalous Exile of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor by Andrew Lownie. Andrew is a historian I really admire. He's written several books now on kind of well-known public figures. There is one on the Mountbattens that I've read, and then this one in particular I've just chosen. And actually it's got a really nice book plate in there, signed book plate. But I just think there is something very absorbing about picking up a book that you're sort of going back in time and you're finding out more about someone, basically. So in amongst Andrew's account of the Windsors, obviously a very controversial couple, through the decades of the 20th century, throughout their lives. This is them on their wedding day, where no members of the royal family attended, I don't think. And it really dives into the postings that the Duke of Windsor ended up having, because he was quite formidable in a lot of ways. He was quite a liability in many ways politically at the time during the Second World War. Some of you might know his kind of dalliances and kind of involvement with kind of controversial world figures like Hitler. And this book just absolutely proves the case that Duke of Windsor was an absolute pain in the backside for Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister of the time, and just kind of who knew what official secrets and really important kind of information, and who should and shouldn't be privy to that information. So anyway, in short, I think that non-fiction can really help with mental health because it takes you to a different place, just like fiction does. But with non-fiction, like I said, you're learning something at the same time. And that's got to be a good thing. So there we go. That's Traitor King by Andrew Lownie. Next up, we are going into the fiction world, I guess for opposite reasons of non-fiction being really, really enjoyable to kind of dip into. For fiction, such as Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, they are the perfect remedy to kind of escape. It's that sense of escapism into a fictional world. And I just picked Lessons in Chemistry as one example because it's a highly, highly enjoyable read. It was published a couple of years ago now. This again, published, signed by Bonnie when I met her at Tasting Notes Live event. I think that was 2022, if I recall correctly. But this book is unlike any other I've read before. It's completely original, completely gripping and compelling in its plot. It's set in the early 1960s, and it follows chemist Elizabeth Zott, who is not your average woman. In fact, Elizabeth Zott would be the first person to point out that there is no such thing. So, Elizabeth works at Hastings Research Institute amongst men, and you can imagine in America during the 60s, you can imagine kind of how that culture and how that world might kind of revolve in the workplace, and how Elizabeth would kind of be the minority. She would be the kind of the odd one out, and it's just how she kind of tackles that in her own unique ways, as depicted in the story that Bonnie has written so brilliantly as a debut novel. So yeah, I just think fiction is great. Like I said, perfect to kind of retreat into, especially at this time of year. But if work is too stressful, life is too stressful, there's always kind of a book to pick up and enjoy. So that's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. And then last but not least, I'm going to stick with the fiction theme, and I'm going to go back to kind of childhood classics. And there's something quite kind of comforting in the fact that we can sort of go back as adult readers now to books that we enjoyed as young readers. And I have just picked The BFG by Roald Dahl. And this is my beautiful edition. This came out a few years ago now. When was it? 2016, is that right? Wow. Okay, didn't think it was that long ago. How time flies. But there is just something like a comfort blanket in going back to books that you're familiar with, that kind of you've probably read as a younger person. It takes you back to a place in time, perhaps. It kind of conjures up lots and lots of nice kind of nostalgia and like I said, comforting feelings. And that for me is Roald Dahl is definitely an author that kind of strikes those feelings up. And the BFG it's kind of wonderful, it's magical, it's kind of whimsical, it's very dark in places, can be quite scary, especially for those reading it for the first time. But there's something really enchanting, even if we do have giants like that for the BFG to contend with. But yeah, and I think there's just something lovely about the language that Roald Dahl is using. Obviously he's quite well known for his play with words. It's quite playful language. So I've just opened it up at this part, so some words are jumping out at me, so I just thought I would share them with you. It says, and the bubbles is also into your tummy, right or left? Right again, Sophie said. And the bubbles is fizzing upwards? Of course, Sophie said. Which means, said the BFG, that they will all come swish-whiffling up your throat and out of your mouth and make a foursome belchy burp. That is often true, Sophie said, but what's wrong with a little burp now and again? It's sort of fun. So, yeah, I just thought that perhaps one of these books that I've recommended would strike a note with you to pick up and enjoy, whatever you're kind of in the mood for, whatever you kind of feel would benefit your mental health. And again, fully appreciate that if people out there suffering with poor mental health, that picking up a book is the last thing that would really be helpful or what is needed in that moment. But that's where I think something even flicking through a book like this with comforting pictures could really help. And that goes to say, I know I only said 6 books, but there's one over here. There's books even like what we call as coffee table books that might actually be what you need in terms of just flicking through and concentrating, taking your mind away from whatever is really unsettling you, and just looking perhaps at photography, and then that could take you into kind of sketching, doodling, something that would really kind of help you with your mental health at that moment. So basically I'm a champion for anything that you kind of do to boost your mental health, especially kind of when you're feeling really low or having a really tough time. So yeah, these are a handful of recommendations, like I said, that, yeah, worth a look, I think. So I hope you really, really enjoyed this vlog on World Mental Health Day. I think if you have listened this far, why don't we have the emoji that's like the little test tube with the potion in it? I think it's there. That's kind of in honour of Elizabeth Stott and the BFG. They're both kind of conjuring up all sorts of potions and chemical mixtures and compounds in their worlds. So hopefully you can find that, or anything kind of scientific related, whether it's the DNA strand or something. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to do so. Thank you for all my returning kind of subscribers. Thank you if you're here for the first time. If you are new to my channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate your support. Please tell all your bookish friends and contacts out there about my channel too. I'm also over on Instagram and X, and you will find me posting various things across those channels as days go by. But for now, I hope you're all doing well. I'd love to know what books supported you in terms of your mental health. Appreciate it's not something that people might not want to share openly, but please add in the comments if there's any particular books that you would like to recommend to others on here too. I would really look forward to you kind of giving your insights and your thoughts too. But for now, I shall love you and leave you, and I shall speak to you again next week. But this, obviously, I'm not usually here on a Thursday. This is a bonus vlog because it struck me last night that I just wanted to kind of share my reflections and my recommendations in terms of World Mental Health Day. But until my usual video appears on Monday, have a great week of reading ahead, whether it's audiobook, paperback, hardback. Hope you get some downtime and can enjoy a few pages or a few chapters, however you read. But I shall say bye for now. Thank you.